from the Yarn Closet in southern Arizona. This is Laura. I live about an hour south of Tucson, a couple of hours to the Mexican border at about 5,000 feet. The feet is a big deal here because if you only live at 2,000 feet, your weather is vastly different than at 5,000 feet. So there is a buzzing thing outside the door. It's driving me batty. Anyway, it's been a couple of weeks. We started school on July 17th. And last weekend I woke up Friday night with shivers and stuff and was out completely all day, like just couldn't do anything. So I was in bed Saturday last weekend, got through this full week of school, and then due to the weather, we're in monsoon season. We have these weird, and because we're mountainy, I'm not in Tucson anymore where I'm like surrounded by mountains, but I'm in the mountains. So I'm real headachy today because we're gonna get a monsoon later today. I can hear a little bit of grumbling of thunder. And so that's fun, you know, get through the week that's tiring and then feel crummy from stuff. Had a couple of people email me some questions. I used to walk about 7,000 steps a day. Then we moved here. It became much more difficult for me to walk in the slightly mountainous and nothing paved countryside with all the animals, cows, javelinas, mountain lions, skunks, coyotes, wild dogs, wild cats, tarantulas, rattlesnakes. Dude, I am legally blind. I have a trip factor anyway, which is one of the reasons why I try to continue to walk, because it keeps me safe. You know, your phone can tell you if you're a fall risk. Look in your health app if you have an iPhone. So the beginning of this year, I decided that my goal would be to get back up to over 5,000 steps a day. I started walking, progressively getting more and more. I walk with Mitzi, the dog, for about 40 minutes every morning. Sometimes I start at 4:50 in the morning, sometimes 5:15. We have this path through the property. We live on 5 acres. And the goal is about 5,400 steps. I get somewhere between 3,600 and 5,400 in that walk specifically a day. And then with my other activity, I managed to stay over 5,000 for the summer. But now that I'm back at school, I'm hovering more around that 7,000 point, which makes me happy. I also do a vibrating plate and occasionally the rebounder. The rebounder is, let me see if I can flip this. That's a rebounder. It's a little trampoline. Yeah, I'm legally blind. I have the safety bar. That little thing over there is the thing you stand on that vibrates. There are 2 handheld cords. See those? I just drop them in front when I'm done. And I've had people, these are the Chirp wheels. This is the one for your neck. And this is just one for your back. I like them. They're very sturdy. So I get to that rebounder, you know, once a week or so for a few minutes. It tends to loosen up my neck. I'm not going to the chiropractor like I was, because who can afford anything anymore? And I do the vibration plate 3 times a week is a good week. And if it's 10 to 15 minutes a crack, wow. But I'd say more often than not, it's 5 minutes 3 times a week. But I do think it's helping. And those things are designed to help keep your lymph system, your drainage system going. I'm 52, I'll be 53 in September. The only thing that keeps your lymph system going is plyometric exercise. That's jumping, that's up and down. And I've never been a good one for that. But I definitely think that doing those things on the walk, and then those things on a fairly regular basis. And I mean, it's consistent. Over the summer, there were only a few days that I didn't walk close to that 4,000 step point in the morning. I feel like the vibration plate is very important to keep me feeling like not bloated, not stagnant. I have less joint pains when I'm doing it every couple of days. And I don't think you have to do it for 15, 20 minutes at a crack like some of the people say. Honestly, when I'm doing 5 minutes every other day, that's enough. That keeps things moving for me. But I think the trick here is you got to find out what works for you. And that's different for everybody. I feel like in my situation, this is the exercise that is keeping me in a pant size that makes me happy and feeling healthy. And that's the most important thing, and helping me cope with some of the stress. I am starting to feel again that thing that they talk about in older people where they start to not cope with stress as well, because I think I have a lot of stress on my plate. And but here's the thing, everybody does. There's a lady at school who's a teacher, and she's got a handicapped child, and she's got other children, and their finances are being stretched because everybody's grocery budget is being stretched these days. And car repairs, and sick parent. And she said, because she's like 30, oh yeah, my mom's just a little bit older than you, but now I'm starting to think, are we getting to that stage? Like, no, you're probably not getting to that stage yet, but when your parents are 80s, then join the club. This is probably just a one-off. You'll be good for a handful of years again. But I don't think people handle stress as well anymore. I don't think we're not breathing the fresh air. We're also congested all the time. We're breathing out of our mouths, which is not good. I try to consciously breathe out of my nose. I try to focus on the joyful things and the positive things. And I've talked to a few women at work. Nobody's feeling great about their relationships. And, he's not being real supportive of me. And I'm having a hard time finding the motivation to be real supportive of him. And it all seems like a at each other thing, and a checks and balances, and a point over here and a point over there. And I think that's just the stress of the time that we're living in. But if you can get in a walk, and I think the best thing about my walk is it is the first thing I do in the morning after going to the bathroom and feeding the cats is I go outside. And I'm outside for about 40 minutes at least. First thing in the morning, I'm getting fresh air at the coolest time in the day for an Arizona person. I'm getting some sunlight. And I think that more than anything else is setting my days up more positively. And volunteering at school, because it's like having a job that's nobody's paying you for. It's just as hard. My eyesight's for shit these days. Comes and goes. And you can't really tell anybody that, because then they wouldn't want you doing it. But I'm not making mistakes. And when I do make a mistake, I can admit it. I catch it right away, and we can fix it. So it's not like, it's not the end of the world. but being out with people is helping. It's helping my older kids. They're stepping up to a greater level. I think the distance, because we're in a retirement phase with my husband, I think that you get on top of each other when you're both at home. We're not that couple. I think the distance is helping. And I'm just trying to enjoy where we're at. So I do think that the walking really does make a difference, people. Is it the exact number of steps? No. It's the fact that I'm doing it every day. Every day. I think in the last 2.5 months, I've taken like 4 days where I've gone out and I've only walked like 700 to 900 steps, which is roughly a pass. But even on the days I don't feel good, I try to get out and do at least one lap. And I think it's the getting out first thing in the morning and having a minute to myself, being out in the fresh air and the sunlight, and then the consistency of doing a little thing over a long period. Because now we're pushing August. I mean, people, it's going to be 5th grade before we know it. It's just the start of 4th grade now. It's going to be 5th grade before we know it. Time just keeps going. And so don't hold on so tight to a momentary feeling, because that moment is gone so fast. But on that note, I'm this far on my pink blanket, which the pink blanket is this tall. I'm 5'4". So it's definitely going to have the length. I don't know that it's quite going to have the width that I want it to have, but I'm starting a white chunk. So I've got 1 row of yellow. I'm going to do a few rows of white, and then I'm not sure if I'm going to do some rows of purple and then end on pink, but that's kind of where I'm leaning. I've got a friend I want to get 2 blankets to, one for her son and one for her daughter. And then my daughter actually has 2 4th grade teachers this year. So I've got to come up with a couple of things for them. So then I think I showed you this, but I'm not sure. It is completely done now. This is how I decided to opt in for the binding. Ooh, this has got a little blip to it. But that's my bind off. That's just what I did. I wanted to do something else, but that just feels good. I started to do like a scalloped row on top of this, and it seemed too fluffy. But I really like it. It doesn't, the pattern picture itself doesn't look big, but people, this is beyond my reach. So it is, they say your arm reach is about your height. So this is about 5.5 feet wide. And almost 5.5 feet this way, because it has turned out more rectangular than I expected. But it just looks that way. It is actually in measurement almost 5'6" by 5'6". It's about, so we're at about 5'2" to 5'4" this way, and we're at about 5'8" the other way. I don't know why or how it got that way, other than I'm thinking in the connecting of the strips that it just did. So it is rectangular, but just. So like I can be here, and it's up to my neck, and it's covering my feet, and it's flopping over the end. So I think good. I don't know who it's going to go to. Like I said, I got 2 teachers and a friend with 2 blankets that I want to make for. So who knows? We had a rough start to the school year, not getting the supplies in to do some of our projects. So we're like trying to trade with other areas. So I had a little bit of knitting time and amongst some students. These are not great shoe socks, but they're good around the house socks. So I was trying to recreate another pair. And of course, one of them feels almost exactly the same. And then the other one feels a little bit tighter with the heel not quite in the right spot. The yarn is also different. This is a stretchier yarn. This is a fuzzier, woollier. So I think once I wear these a few times, they will be fine. But I put those heels in because I just threw away a pair of socks that I had mended a number of times. It's a very square toe box because I have very wide, flat, barefoot style feet. It's taken me years to get from the pointy toes to back to normal. But I got that done this week. And then look at this, look at this. These were socks with no heels for my young child, because that's a great thing to do as kids grow. And then I made it into some fingerless gloves, and this is a 60 stitch tube. So it's a good length, especially for children, or width for around your wrists and arms. But once again, this is a little bit scratchier, woollier of a yarn. I was going to cut them in half and make 2 pairs, but I actually think I'm just gonna leave it. I did make them exactly the same length because one tube was slightly longer than the other. I wasn't sure because it felt like the heel was not going to block out, but when I washed them and dried them, and I did it right in the wash and dryer, this is superwash wool, that little heel bump just completely came out, fell out, and now they are slightly scratchy, but really good. And we do get a little bit of snow here. So I don't know. I still have to finish that other mitten for my daughter. And so I will work on that. But I have to have small projects for at school. So I might just bring that one into school for like the next small project. I am trying to keep up on the socks. It bothers me that I get so frustrated with a pair of socks that I get to a point where I'm like, I'm just done. Because it seems like so much work, and it feels like I never have a pair of socks for more than about 2 years. Before you've mended it to the point of, I just need to completely reknit this half the sock, or great, I can salvage this cuff, but is that really worth it to now recreate? Guess what, people? It's not always to me. And there's so much frustration in life. Like I said, I got a platter full right now that I'm just doing whatever I have to do to minimize the stress. I am sorry I didn't get on here last week, but like I said, I was just down. I mean, I couldn't look at my phone, I couldn't answer texts, I was just down. And it's been a good start to the year, a little bit challenging. My son forgets every year that it's a rough starting because classes can be set up differently. But once you get used to that, just roll with it. And there's a lot of feeling of, but next year, and I keep saying, so let's not borrow that stress of next year, because that's next year's. It's not today or this year's. We're gonna get through this. And I feel like in the stress of life right now that everybody's got their walls up. And asking people to drop their walls can sometimes just piss them off. So what do? You just gotta wait it out. I got a text this morning, a picture of a girl that I taught 6 years ago how to crochet and knit. She loved the crocheting, and now she's in high school selling stuff at craft fairs to make money for life and college. And that really puts perspective on how time does fly, and what we do does matter. You might not realize it in the moment, but what you're doing today does have an impact on the next guy. So look with your heart first, not your eyes. It's something I remind myself of all the time. I love you and I appreciate you being here and subscribing and commenting. And I love all the emails. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Irene. Thank you, everybody over at Patreon that still participates. I know I'm not great at that community, but I'm trying. There's a bunch of free Reiki over there. There's some paid Reiki. And we're all just doing the best we can. So that's the reality. This is a real corner of the internet. Look with your heart first, not your eyes. I love you guys.